Welcome to episode 97 of the Left Behind Game Club. This week, we play Kentucky Route Zero's fourth interlude, Un Pueblo de Nada. You can find all things Left Behind Game Club on our website at leftbehindgame.club, on Twitter at leftbehindclub, and on Instagram at leftbehindgameclub. If you like what you've heard so far in our Kentucky Route Zero series, give us a review on your podcasting platform of choice. It helps a lot. Let's get right into it.
You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club.
Welcome to the Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I'm your host, Jacob McCourt, and today I have two friends with me. The first friend, you know him, you love him. His name is Michael Ruffalo.
I'm excited to talk about a very eerie interlude.
And here to talk about a very eerie interlude with us is our second friend. It is his 8th time on the podcast, Mr. Adam Iannetta.
Thanks so much for having me back.
If you are tuning into this episode without having listened to our 7 previous episodes of the Kentucky Route Zero saga, you may want to stop this one, download our Act 1 episode, start there, continue through, and make your way here. Don't worry, we'll be here when you're ready. Gentlemen, today we're talking about the fourth interlude, and I'm going to screw this up, but the name of it is Un Pueblo de Nada. Did I get that right? Did I do it?
Well done.
You know, I think that was good.
Yeah.
I think it was good enough.
Yeah. Thank you. This game, or this interlude, has a very different perspective than everything else that we've played thus far in this game. Is that a fair statement?
I think that's fair. When you say perspective, are you talking about the visual perspective of it? Like,
ooh, good question. Interpret.
Well, I mean, looking at this interlude, and as far as the perspective goes, I guess visually, I was reminded of the second interlude, the entertainment, because you play it from a focal point rotating around a room, and you never actually physically move from one area to the next. You just make a full 360 and can sort of interact with the different aspects and elements. But this one, where instead of being in the first-person perspective of a character in which the entertainment, you were the barfly, this one, you're sort of in the third-person perspective over the shoulder of Emily, who is one of the 3 characters we've come to know and love as the basement people.
Wait, are you telling me that the people in this interlude are the basement people? The people that we see at the beginning in Equus Oils playing a board game in the basement?
I guess so. I actually didn't piece it together until this point, and what I found out later is that they're actually the musicians that we see sort of appearing and reappearing in all of the different acts. I think most recently, right towards the very end of Act 4, at the end of Sam and Ida's, as we're pulling out, they sort of drift lazily along in a little lifeboat and begin to play this very somber sort of Greek chorus piece to close things out for us.
Can I bring up something that I really enjoyed in this interlude?
Please.
That there's a crow on the computer.
You mean
his name? Go ahead.
And when you say on the computer, you don't mean on the computer screen. You mean
your mama's so fat she doesn't hang around the house. She hangs around the house.
You mean that there is a crow named Moe who is operating the computer.
Yes, and he is slow at it.
So
Slow Moe the Crow operating the computer, yes.
If there was ever a hint that this game was inspired by David Lynch, this was it. Because it is just so surreal.
It's absurd. It is truly absurd. And I guess he's pretty good at operating the computer, although a little bit slow at it. Sorry for that random thing. I just wanted to point that out, especially because our friend Mo isn't on these podcasts, and he'll probably not listen to this, so we can say like slow mo. So set the scene. So we are at a community television station, and that community television station is called WEVP-TV. Which has been on the splash screen when you start the game. And imagine that you're in a very like old school broken down like classroom. Like it's got the stucco ceiling
it's
tiles.
like a portable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like a portable.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyone who had ever taken classes in a portable, you know the state of rundown affairs that they can be. This is just some really low budget public access TV, and it's something that has been referred to multiple times throughout the game so far in many episodes and interludes. It is where we have previously heard the story of Weaver haunting this radio station or this TV station. We have previously heard that this is the TV station that was funded by the power company, and other little stories throughout of the public access TV channel.
Mm-hmm. And that Weaver was involved here, and that something happened, and then it was destroyed. So, if that's kind of the setup, you play the producer of the show, and your perspective, you can actually like move around in a 360 space and explore the entire community radio station, whether it's the set, whether it's the weatherman, whether it's the door, whether it's your colleagues playing with a radio. And although the game is very linear, like you can kind of take your time with it and explore different nooks and crannies at your pleasure.
One of the really cool features about the point and click aspect of this environment specifically is that, in other acts and in other interludes, you're sort of given a small text box that says, do you want to interact with this in some specific way, like pet the dog or talk to Dr. Turner or whomever. But this one, when you place your cursor over top of something, these almost constellation-like illustrations begin to appear around what it is that you're looking at, and sort of highlight different features of them. And your cursor itself is now sort of this strange-looking hieroglyphic eyeball with 5 little fingers as well, so like you can actually grab things. And it's really, really interesting how much the gameplay and the visuals have changed since the very beginning, especially with this interlude, because for the first time you can really appreciate the 3-dimensional visuals of these characters, because now they're almost polygonal, whereas before they were almost like very simple 2D cutouts. So it's really interesting to see that dynamic evolution over I'm not sure how many years this interlude took from the time they first started the first act, but it's great to see that sort of evolution.
Yeah, I think it's 5 years from the start of Act 1 in 2013, so they were developing it for maybe a couple years, like 5+ years. And just to bounce off your point, you had said that like the characters, are great, even though they have no faces.
Exactly.
And I think the first thing I noticed in this interlude was the fact that Ron, who's just a guest on the random community television station, and he brings in a tape, he's wearing glasses, and I think he's got like a beard. And I think it's one of the first times where I actually noticed like facial detail, because the characters, I feel, are so great at telling their story with their bodies that they have not needed a face until now.
Absolutely.
And they don't even have a face now.
No, I completely agree with that. They've never needed facial expressions for us to read and interpret the characters, just based on the things that they say as well as the things that they don't say, that being the different options we're allowed to pick and choose for them.
I love the fact that we've seen a progression as we've played episode by episode, interlude by interlude, of them getting more confident as directors, taking more interesting ways to tell the story visually and storytelling. And I love the way that this was done from like center of the room perspective, and you get to spin around. And I expect, and I don't know if this is going to be true, but similar to previous interludes that give you a hint of how you're going to be interacting with the next episode, I expect episode 5 is going to have some scenes like this, or a moment like this.
Wow, mm-hmm. I never thought of that. That's really interesting.
Did you guys happen to explore the website that goes alongside this interlude?
I did, but I was left a little disappointed because all I got was the Are you talking about the video on YouTube, or are you talking about the website itself? Because all I got when I looked up the website was just like, remember back in the 90s when your TV wasn't working properly and you just get the multicolored bars across the screen?
Yeah.
That's all I got. And so I was kind of hoping for something more. But what did you end up finding, Jacob?
So if you go to WEVP.TV, you'll be kind of graced with like a video that just plays kind of full screen in a browser. But if you go to /VDB, it actually gives you the entire broadcast history of that day, I believe, on WEVP-TV, and you can actually watch all of the clips that were used, because throughout the entire interlude you'll be putting tapes into, to go to air, and like they'll be talking, and not only are those tapes here, but they've also shot a recreation of what is played in the game,
yes,
as a video on this website, which is the most... Of course Cardboard Computer did that.
It's so meta.
Mike, did you explore the website at all?
I did not. So I knew that there were YouTube videos associated with this one, but I did not dive into anything other than the game itself and the phone number that you get prompted with along the way. As I was playing the game, or as I was playing this interlude, I saw a phone number pop up, and I grabbed my phone right next to me. I'm like, this is a game that number is definitely still active and definitely still working. So I just put it on speakerphone, and I listened as I continued to play.
So I didn't, but it sounds, Adam, from your face, I'm guessing that you did that too. So do you guys want to tell us what was on that phone number?
Adam, go for it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the phone number, if you are interested, it's 270-216-5556. And it's just a very brief message, nowhere near as in-depth as here and there along the echo. But it's just a brief...
Here and there along the echo.
But it's nowhere... Sorry, no, please. If you have any information on how to handle snakes, please let me know. But it's... I believe it's Nikki, or... I can't remember her name. She's one of the characters referenced in this interlude. She's the one on the answering machine. She says, "Thank you for calling us at EVP-TV, and if you have any questions or concerns, please let us know." And it's just like a little. It's such a nice touch, and I love it when, whether it's movies or books or video games, they go beyond their own medium to try and expand their world and make it that much more fun and interactive.
What I loved about playing this game, I don't know if you guys felt the same way, and it might have something to do with when we played this. I guess a little bit of context is we've been playing this game at a fairly fast clip, a fairly fast pace. One episode in an interlude to the next. And there was a little bit of distance between, episode 4 and this interlude for us. And for me, that time away, that distance, gave me a little bit of perspective of what the people who were playing this game, episode by episode, interlude by interlude, as it was coming out, must have been feeling. And what I find so interesting is I know our takes along the way where it's kind of weird that all of these interludes and episodes are their own contained unit, right? And they kind of live on their own. But, experiencing this, I was actually kind of glad that, it was its own contained unit and that I didn't have to have a previously on episode bumper where, you're just kind of reminded of what happened previously. A lot of the references when they come from previous episodes kind of just hit you. And there was one really great line, or one really great portion of the game where you're searching through a catalog of tapes to find the one that you're promised, and I'm pretty sure it's a video that is described earlier in a previous interlude. And I feel like this is a moment the developers kind of break the fourth wall here and are talking to the audience, where the character, I believe it's Emily, says, "We should put this all in chronological order. Although I guess it's hard to remember sometimes the order of things. And some of these tapes were made at the same time. Or we started one video and then started another in the middle and then came back later, and time is out of joint. It's like sweeping a beach. Oh, wait a minute." And to me, that was the developers breaking the fourth wall and kind of just saying like, hey, like each one of these things were started at one point. We came back and finished it. We didn't do these in chronological order. We're not even telling this story in chronological order. So they each have their own experience, and that's maybe why it's coming together in the way that it is. And I could very well be reading way too far into it, but it was one of those things that definitely made me smile as I saw it.
So I'm totally with you that like the interludes are probably told in non-chronological order, much like Pulp Fiction as one example that I'm going to think of. But can you argue that the acts are actually done in non-chronological order?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I guess, you know, at least in my perspective so far, I guess close to the end of the game, I can't imagine playing just the acts of this game without the interludes in the order that we've played them. I feel like it is like watching a TV show in just random episode by random episode and trying to piece things together. And what I love about this game, one of the many things that I love about this game, is that they feed you bits of information that you build the blocks together to create this amazing universe. And so much of the mystery and magic of it is the possibility space and the things that they don't tell you. And they frame such a really cool and interesting world. And I'm going to stop gushing for now and let you guys talk.
Well, no, I think the one thing that we've mentioned time and time again throughout all these episodes is that we keep having these Pepe Silvio moments, as Mike often references them, where, you know, we're in this room with newspaper clippings and string connecting bits of information to try and piece together what this story is and ultimately come up with this insane connect the dots by the end of it. So it's amazing how, you know, even just the mention of someone's name or a specific moment in time or what have you, how that seems to trigger something, and you think to yourselves, wait a minute, I remember that from another act or another interlude, and, you know, it all starts to come together. So I love that. I'm not sure if it's foreshadow or what have you, but it's really, really enjoyable. This
game has definitely got me platinum status at Yarn Barn. I've started buying it in bulk. There is. I'm starting to get some serious discounts because of this game.
I think my favorite example on that is there's a callback to Cyrano Cole from the Rum Colony.
Yeah.
And like just having explained that or having them say that again, I just went back to the Rum Colony, which is probably one of my favorite settings in the entire game, and I just thought of my time there and how it was great. And then I got a weird phone call from a guy on the public access show who was like, a raccoon ate my garbage. and then I was like, okay, now this is my favorite part of that whole episode. Should we kind of like high level say what happens in this interlude? Because I think we need to talk about kind of the beginning is whatever, but I think there's a series of 2 or 3 things that happen that actually have a huge impact on the story.
Yeah.
Do you want me to kick those in the bucket?
Yeah. I'd love to hear your like key moments, because to me it's you know, there's 2 or 3 at most, but I'd love to hear your overview.
The Cole's notes.
So here are the Cole's notes. Rita's hosting a show, and she's with Maya, and she's with Ron, and Jeff the raccoon garbage man calls in. They play more tapes, and essentially what happens is there's a power outage, and then the station comes back, and then there's a weird Weaver kind of interception of the broadcast, and then there's an explosion, and then fade to black, and that's the entire interlude. It could take you anywhere from 25 minutes to, I watched a playthrough after the fact, and it was like 50 minutes of playthrough time. So really, it's however pace you take it is how long it's going to be.
Yes.
The one thing that's constantly happening in the background as the primary events are going on is that it's raining outside, and I shout out to the sound director, because they really captured what sitting inside of a tiny portable sounds like when it's getting pelted by rain. Because I've had those experiences from grade school, and the entire time the rain is coming down, and it continues to to crescendo, and you can not only experience it aurally through the sound, but you also experience it visually, where there are points in time where you can acknowledge the leaky ceiling or the fact that there's water coming up through the floorboards, despite the fact that we are in what is essentially a giant toaster with all of this electrical equipment on the floor, and nobody seems to be bothered by it. Everybody has that sort of mindset where they think, oh, that looks pretty bad, but I'm not going to do anything about it because someone else will take care of it. So,
Man, that is such... So, as someone who did community radio, like, I can tell you, like, not only sometimes does programming get a little bit strange, no offense to anyone that I've ever been on the same station as, but also... yeah, that's me. You're never going to find out where I worked. Actually, it's on my social media. But, like, sometimes the shows are eclectic, Michael, and also there's very much that perspective of, like, oh, man, it's broken. Like, I hope somebody fixes it.
There is some serious janky public access TV vibes throughout this. But the thing that I do love the most is what Adam alluded to, which is that each progressive like step in the game, you look up to the ceiling and you see like, oh man, there's more water coming in, and then you look down at the floor and it goes from there being like, you know, pots buckets that are starting to fill up and then buckets that are starting to fill up to it just being like a sheer like slick wet surface all along with big puddles in the middle of this tiny little portable where people are falling asleep on air. People are unaware that they are currently live in broadcasting. It is just the lowest level jank of community public access TV that I couldn't help but laugh at and love. There are some amazing moments. I guess one of the other things that I love too is just the fact that there is an archive of all of these videos and all of these things that, you know, they're trying to preserve, and they are preserving it essentially in a wet cardboard box where they just keep shuffling it from one side of the room to the other, just hoping that it doesn't grow moldy and deteriorate.
In this game, they think about old media like tape a lot, and then sometimes they're like, hey, this is really important, but other times they're like, old media sucks.
I was going to ask, have you guys had the chance, I was looking up playthroughs after my playthrough of this interlude to see what other tidbits I could find, and apparently, I don't know who it was, but this group of people got together and tried to recreate a live-action reenactment of this interlude. No, I haven't had a chance to watch it, but it's just from the little YouTube previews on the thumbnail. It is hilarious because, you know, you can tell that's clearly the character who's Ron. He's wearing the yellow baseball cap, those old-fashioned, like, 1970s, 1980s glasses, and he's got the goatee, and it's, like, I don't know if this was just... I don't know if it was something Cardboard Computer put together themselves, or if it's just a diehard group of fans from like the fan wiki or something, but I'm very interested in looking into it some more.
I know that there are some live action videos that they put out along with this, but I would love even more if this was like a fan created thing. Because this game seems to have that, and we've talked about it before, cult-like following, but it seems like the cult-like fans of this go beyond, you know, cosplay that you might find with other fandoms. It goes beyond fanfic that you might experience with other fandoms. This seems like a really hardcore fandom. Like, the people who are into this game, I think, are into it.
They're going to build maquettes in their basements for a year, built strictly from the finest clay from Kentucky, a small dealer, and they're going to buy a phone off eBay and then draw the string all over their walls to figure out what the hell happened.
Exactly.
Pepe Silvio!
Yeah. I don't feel like there are a lot of lukewarm fans of this game. I feel like you either are into it or you just don't get it and you're like, fine, and you're like, whatever, other people can enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the really interesting things about this, because as I've said before, I've never liked point-and-click adventure games, but this game has me converted, and so I'm so much into it that, I mean, while I haven't finished the game itself yet, I would go as far as to say it's probably up there in like my top 10 favorite video games of all time at this point right now.
Wow, that's high praise. We haven't even finished it yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What I'd love to go back to though is there is the, I think, supernatural, eerie, weird vibe throughout all of this that's unsaid. Many points throughout the game or throughout the episode or act, your character can respond weird or eerie to a lot of what's being said or what happens to her. And if I don't remember which characters, I assume it's Bob. They're working on a radio in the corner, and they're talking about how the fuzz in between radio stations is actually just picking up ghost voices and ghost noise. And I know if we go even back to, I think, the first episode, we hear Conway say something along the lines of, "My mom never trusted the TV. She felt that the white noise was the ghosts trying to get through." And we have this amazing moment, I don't know if you guys clued in on it too, where the power goes out and Weaver takes over the broadcast, and they start, power comes back on, Weaver takes over the broadcast, and everyone talks about like, "Oh, what should we do?" And they're like, "Nothing we can do. We've never been able to get it back from her. She just decides to take over it whenever she wants." But the thing that is the most, to me, amazing moment is when the power goes off and Weaver is still controlling the broadcast. This moment of like, nothing is going to stop. This is supernatural. This is more than just superstition, right? There is actually a paranormal extra element to this.
The really interesting thing about that moment with Ben and Bob as they're sitting by their tinkering their little ghost hunting device is Emily at one point says something along the lines of there's no such thing as ghosts except for the ghost of this studio, and she refers to Weaver as that ghost. And if you remember, towards the end of the first act, I think it's the first instance that Conway and Shannon have with the TV and staring into it. Shannon says, I could have swore for a moment I actually saw Weaver on the screen. And so I'm very curious if that was alluding to these, I think they refer to them as interventions throughout, where anytime the broadcast is interrupted and Weaver appears and takes control, they refer to them as an intervention. And so I'm left speechless at all these kinds of moments. And I can still remember looking back and thinking of my early thoughts of Shannon when she used to talk about how she studied, I can't even remember what it was. The study of
topology or something like that.
Yeah, like the study of sound waves and how they reverberate in tunnels and enclosed spaces. And I just kept thinking to myself, nope, you're just a ghost hunter. This is all just a ruse. and now we get to 5 or 6 episodes later, and they're talking about ghosts. And I'm like, this is it. I'm not crazy.
Totally, yeah. Like there are all these moments that I think I bring in my prejudices from the real world. Where I'm like, well, I don't believe in ghosts, and ghosts don't exist. But if we flash back to one of the very early episodes, we are in a mine or a mine shaft in a world where when you turn the lights off, every spark illuminates a dead miner who's just staring at you along the way. And you hear them humming and walking out of the mine itself. And we go down a supernatural mine to end up in the zero. Which I'm sure there has to be, I don't know if we've mentioned this, and I don't know what the connection would be, but Pueblo de Nada, like a town or a people of nothing, and nothing is zero. I feel like there has to be a connection to the zero. Maybe it's the people of the zero. Pepe Sylvia moment right there. But again, buying yarn in bulk.
If you have the chance to go onto YouTube, you can actually look up the tape of Pueblo de Nada that they play during the interlude, and it's done in the I guess the best way to describe it for a podcast is if you remember, like from the early 90s, those sort of slideshow gothic info educational videos you used to watch in grade school, where it was just stills of pictures and then just someone's voice over top kind of talking to you about, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean in whatever year, and you would see a still of Christopher Columbus, and then there was a boat. But this one talks about who the people of nothing were, and it seems like a very interesting culture, like a race of people that were they seemed to be nomadic at one point, and they migrated from South America to or from Latin America to North America, and they were gung-ho on freeing horses or letting them free. And their entire culture rested upon the idea of all of life is an experiment. And, everything they did, every life choice was based on some sort of social experiment, and they believe that whatever happened to them, the reason why they don't exist anymore, that we can't find them, is based on their final experiment, quote unquote. And while we don't know what that was, we believe it has something to do with their disappearance.
What I appreciated about the video they had sourced and then put together as well is that they drew from so many different inspirations. The intro gave me like hard Electric Company vibes. Is that what that show was called back in the day?
Hey,
like
you guys!
Yeah, old Electric Company vibes, and like the video that was shot was like, it felt like the 80s, it looked like the 80s, and I don't know, was it a shot-for-shot recreation of the game, or was it just kind of a kind of loosely based on?
I have no idea. Yeah, no idea. But the same sound file that they have playing in the background as you're playing through the interlude is the same one that they use during that little 2 to 3 minute video that you can find on YouTube.
Should we hypothesize about like what we think happened, or is it just a supernatural thing that happened?
Yeah, like I honestly, my take on it is that it was just, we get to see what everyone had been talking about, seeing what this station that has been so central to a lot of the experience so far, touching back on the story of Weaver, seeing for ourselves that this is not just people who are making things up, but this is actually Weaver in a supernatural way taking over the station. And I think the thing that stood out to me the most is that it seemed like Weaver was making new things each time she took over the station. There was some comment that gave me that impression, and I always thought it was just the same couple broadcasts that she was just doing over and over and over. So I'm really excited to see what happens in the next episode or act. I don't expect any closure. I don't expect that we're gonna get anything buttoned up and really nice with a bow, because this seems to be the type of just we're just gonna throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and let your imagination take hold.
Was it someone that said in the interlude that her interventions always seem to come across as like a warning as far as what's supposed to be happening?
Oh.
And it's kind of funny because the rain is just pelting the sides of this little cardboard box, cardboard company, WEVP-TV TV station, no pun intended. But well, at the same time, they go over to Cyrano with the weather report, and you've got this guy operating one of those old-fashioned overhead projectors, but he's doing something quite psychedelic with it, where he's adding melted wax on top of it. So rather than seeing your traditional weather report with a map of your general location with cold fronts and warm fronts, it's just text and then this kaleidoscope of colors over top, and it says things like imminent floods, retreat to higher ground, and things like that. But nobody seems to be bothered by any of this. And towards the very end, Weaver finally comes on, and my assumption was perhaps she was just trying to warn everybody in this general vicinity, the flood is coming, so evacuate at all costs. But I have no idea what that has to do with anything. Potentially maybe the relationship with the miners from Act 1.
It begs the question, Adam. Where were these guys who are doing the meteorological report with an overhead projector from like the 70s. Where are they getting their like weather from? Like, where are they getting their reports from? Like, are they using the Crow Moe on the computer to help figure it out? You know, it's.
Did you guys end up watching the video version of the broadcast?
I did not.
No.
Okay, so my final point is just around the video, because if you go on WEVP-TV and you watch the actual broadcast, it actually shows you what Weaver was saying in like subtitle with the hijacked broadcast, and it talks about the earth being damp and the tragic horses and how you have to close your eyes and how you're being surrounded by the dead. And like, again, Mike, you said it's kind of a lot of nonsense about like, you'll find your way and all that stuff, and you probably won't get any answers. But I think like, I don't think that was in the game, and it was in the video. So I think if you love this game and you want to spend more time in the world, I would recommend watching the entire episode of this broadcast, because they kind of do a recreation of it, and it's a lot of fun, and it gives you more pieces to the puzzle.
That's awesome.
Silvio.
More Pepe Silvia. I think we should just leave it at that, because I'm going to go and watch that video right now. And look forward to our next discussion where we talk about Act 5 and see what happens.
Gentlemen, we're getting to the end. Like, we're almost there. Doing this.
Yeah.
We're almost there. Adam, do you have any final thoughts?
I'm just...
You look like you wanted to say something. That's why I went to you.
It's just that every single interlude and act, I don't want to say it answers any questions, but it satisfies me with more information, but still leaves me with further questions. And this interlude is one and the same, and I am just so excited for what is, I guess, the final act, and trying to figure out, okay, where do we go from here? We know that in the fourth act, Conway is gone. He is a light bright skeleton.
I didn't know it until someone said it to me.
Exactly, Michael. But
I'm sorry to ruin the game that we played already.
But
no, that was just a dumb me moment. Go ahead.
But Conway, you know, the primary, our protagonist that we played as from the very beginning is now gone. He's this light bright skeleton who's gone down a boat with the Hard Times Brewery Company, and you know we're now left with Shannon, the dog, and the rest of our ragtag company. And where do we go from here? And I mean, this whole interlude with WEVP-TV just raises further questions. You know, what happened after the storm? Where does it fit in along this timeline? And so, whatever happens, come hell or high water, no pun intended. I mean, I'm very, very much excited for this final act to see where we go.
Well, you'll have to tune in next time for our Act 5 episode and our Interlude 5 episode, which are coming out next month. But until then, if you like the Left Behind Game Club, you can do us a few favors. First, you can go to your podcasting platform of choice, give us 5 stars, and give us a review, because if you give us a review and you let us know, we'll read it on the air, just like this one from The Greatest Story Ever Played, who said, "Listen to this show is excellent. The guys are tackling the never-ending task of ensuring that no game is left behind. Some of my favorite episodes have been What Remains of Edith Finch, Detroit Become Human, and Night in the Woods." So again, review us. We'll read it on the air. If you don't want to give us a review, shame on you, but also consider joining our Discord. You can find the link to that on our website at leftbehindgame.club. We're on Twitter at leftbehindclub, and we're also on Instagram at leftbehindgameclub. With all that out of the way, Adams, thank you so much for coming on to your 8th episode. We are very happy to have you back. If people want to find you and your work, where can they do that?
The best place for people to find me is just at my website, adamiannetta.ca. It's my professional profile for my work as a singer. Just as well, I'm now on Facebook as well. If you look up
Whoa.
DM, the future. No, I'm a bit of a Luddite when it comes to social media and those kinds of things. But if you want to find me on Facebook, just look up DMA Iannetta, just my last name, and that's just my Facebook page that piggybacks my work on my website. But you know, just as passionate as I am about singing and music, I'm equally passionate about video games and talking about great games like this one with amazing people such as yourselves. So thank you guys again for having me on. I mean, it's an honor and a pleasure.
Amazing.
One of those amazing people is Michael Ruffalo. Michael, where can people find you and your work?
You can find me on most social places online at RuffaloM, but more importantly, you can find me in the Discord, where I get into knife fights with people about my hot takes. I'm looking forward to having more conversations and drag-out brawls about our video gaming opinions, but find me there in the show discussion channel.
And also fighting Michael in the Discord is me, at Jacob McCourt, like I said, in the Discord. You can also find me on all major social media platforms there. Big tweeter guy, so if you want to tweet me, you can do that. Michael, what do we say to the listeners every single episode?
And that, my friends, is one less weird episode left behind.